If you want to get to the top, if you want to reach your potential, if you want to break through that ceiling, you have to realize that the ceiling is self imposed. You have to see that what is preventing you from achieving is the anchor that you tied around your waist or the concrete you've poured into your shoes. So, what is that self imposed ceiling, the anchor, the concrete? What is it literally? It's down to three things. So, first, it's your own fear of success, the fear of what it takes to get success, or the fear of what happens when you are successful. But if everybody values success, why would anybody fear it? Well, when you're young, you're naturally optimistic. There is no tree you can't climb, no wall you can't jump. You're kind of superhuman in a way, and that's the benefit of optimism. That's the power of optimism. There's no goal that you really want that you can't accomplish. Now, some of us really were living that positive life, but then life happened. Our parents lose their jobs. We lost our boyfriend or our girlfriend. We missed out on an opportunity that we swore that we would get, that we worked really hard for. We start to question, am I going to lose more things that I love or that I achieved? So this is why it's so important that parents encourage optimism in their children. But some of us didn't get that support. We got pessimism and doubt masquerading as protection or projection, but in reality it was fear. And we started to buy into that fear when we wanted, whether we wanted to or not. So when that happens, that's kind of how you end up a proud card carrying realist. In reality, you were once an optimist that got massively disappointed and let down too many times, and then you became a pessimist, but then you realize, oh, but I can't be a pessimist, that's bad. There's a negative connotation with that. So then you decided to mask it by being a realist. So here's some nuance, right? If a situation is actually bad, then just call it what it is. In that context, you're being honest and a realist. But that's the thing about being a realist. Being a realist isn't really a paradigm. It's just looking at what is and calling it what it is. Being an optimist or a pessimist, those are paradigms and perspectives that one lives through. You are generally seeing the world for the possibilities of success or the possibilities of failure. But both possibilities exist. Both wolves exist. But of these two wolves, which one are you feeding? The wolf of success leads to success. The wolf of failure leads to failure. Now, I know that sounds ridiculously obvious, but if it really was, people wouldn't be so confused as to why they want success but block themselves from it. As we said, success is a good thing, right? But the consequences of going for success or the consequences of achieving success might be bad, or at least that's what you believe. This is why people don't go after what they want. It's those contradictory feelings associated with success that confuses us. So on the one hand, success is good, but on the other hand, what are the consequences? What would I have to give up to be successful? So there's some positive and then there's some negative. It's those contradictory feelings that confuse us. But here's another thing that is kind of obvious. You can't achieve success from a paradigm of negativity. In fact, the only way to do this would be to do a whole bunch of negative and harmful things in order to get success. So what are those things? Well, we have harassing and abusing people while live streaming, spreading misinformation, overworking employees, extortion, killing competitors, rage baiting, lying to investors, lying to yourself. These are just the common ways people do it these days. We've all seen their success as well, but we've also seen their downfall and how much trouble follows them like the plague. And they can't shake it. How can you shake it when you're the source of it? These people also feared the heights, but they refused to climb within. They could have been successful without the negativity, but they believed that they had to do it as if they were sacrificing their morals on the altar of evil. They basically sold their soul to the devil and wonder why he doesn't stop calling. Then we have other people who are also negative, but they don't go around hurting others. They just never do anything to achieve their dreams. They have the dreams, but they don't go within to see why they don't actualize it. Another obvious point, fear is scary, if you didn't already know that. If we've been programmed to move away from that which we perceive as dangerous, this is true whether the threat is external or internal. However, the perceived threat may not be a threat at all, but because the paradigm is negativity, as far as they're concerned, they're just keeping themselves safe. Safe, but unhappy. So maybe not that safe after all. In the same way someone let you down, no, you're the one letting yourself down. You don't hold yourself accountable in the same way you did for your parents or your friends or your partners or God. Despite all of this, he or she who fears the heights must first climb within. If you really think something bad will happen if you go for success or if you achieve it, you need to investigate it by asking yourself, what would I feel would happen if I went for what I want? No, don't censor your answer, right? Be honest. The details will vary from person to person, but the answer will likely be failure. And this is the second reason we put limits on ourselves. All this avoidance and overcompensating, it's down to the fear that you will fail. But because failure is the price that you pay for success, you have to see failure as a necessary thing because it teaches you what you need in order to be successful. Now, some people go, no thanks, and go back to the safety of what they know. But they always return because it may be human nature to avoid danger, but it's also human nature to achieve. And the more you face your fear, or in other words, the more you give yourself the grace to feel the fear, the easier it becomes to dismantle the beliefs that give rise to that fear. This is how you hold yourself accountable, and then you realize that optimism really is the path to success. So we started off by realizing that the fear of success revealed itself as really the fear of failure, but for some of us it gets even deeper. And what it revealed to us is the third and final reason we put limits on ourselves. The fear of optimism. Do I dare believe again? I don't want to seem like a fool. I remember when I did that and I failed. I remember when I was a child and they promised this and that, but it never happened. So I decided to not trust anymore, and it made the disappointment easier to handle. And trust me, that's a fact. Being negative really does prevent the disappointment from stinging until it doesn't. And then being negative to yourself then just means stinging yourself every day. Now, as an adult, you make the decisions and you direct your life far more than you did as a child. But even as a child or a teenager, there are things that are only in your control, like grades and different kinds of relationships. Only you can control that. Optimism, seeing the possibility and path for success, is the perspective that leads to success. So as painful as you think it could be to face the fear of optimism, that is the fear that prevents you from believing in yourself. You're probably sensing a theme here, right? The more you give yourself the grace to feel the fear of optimism, the easier it becomes to decide to live in optimism, and the easier it becomes to see that path of success. True optimism isn't merely believing that you will achieve this specific dream which will cause you to be happy. That's not what optimism actually is. True optimism is knowing that regardless of what happens, you're good. You live a good life now. You will live a good life in the future. Your biggest dream is often just a stepping stone to your greatest potential. This is why when people achieve their goal, they say, okay, now what? they're ready to go again because there's more ground to cover on the path to success. Just make sure you don't run yourself into the ground, all right? Rest when you need to. And lastly, optimism doesn't blind you from seeing negativity. That's why they make the distinction and call it blind optimism. But weirdly enough, pessimism almost always blinds you from seeing optimism. Why is that? It's because fear wants you to solely focus on the negative side, whereas optimism wants you to see the path to success and the dangers that threaten it. One perspective gives you a narrow view, the other is panoramic.